SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
While traveling along the roads of North Mississippi, be sure to spot the Oil Drop logo for your next stop. All Dee's Oil locations are locally owned and operated. Dee's Oil, where there's quality in every tank.
It's time for True American Heroes, For the Record, with Jack Rutland. Another exclusive on SuperTalk Mississippi 102.1 FM. Many of our heroes have taken their stories with them to the grave. But this show is about the stories and personal experiences of these veterans.
Welcome to our program today, and we're honored to have in the house with us Mr. Jerry Rein, a longtime part of our community here in Brookhaven, Lincoln County, who was also, or is also, a veteran of the Marine Corps and was one of the men that served our country during the Korean conflict. And it's an honor to have you with us, Mr. Jerry.
It's good to be here.
Thank you, sir. Well, let's just start. Let's go back to those years a long time ago. And you and I have been talking and visiting. We talked a little bit yesterday and some this morning about your experiences. And a lot of those memories, you said, as you looked at some things, memorabilia and pictures and letters and things that you had, it brought back memories, a flood of memories. And I suspect something as significant as going off to war and serving your country, it had quite an impact on your life, didn't it?
Sure did.
Well, let's go back. You were, I think at that time, you were working at a bank in Meridian, Mississippi.
First National Bank in Meridian.
First National Bank, Meridian, and you were what age?
19.
19 years old, and you were already a part, am I correct in saying you were a part of the Marine Reserve Unit there?
I was with the Marine Reserve Unit in Meridian, Mississippi.
In Meridian. Okay, so the issue with North Korea and South Korea pulls the United States into that conflict. When did you first hear you may be going?
I don't remember the exact date, but they activated us pretty quick, and we went out to Tent Camp 2 in California. We was first going to go direct to Korea, but they decided that we needed some more training and get us in a better physical condition.
Sure. Now, how many men were there? Do you remember how many men from the Reserve Unit in Meridian?
I do not know the exact number, but they busted us all up once we got out to Tent Camp 2 in California. It was too many, 35 or 45 of us in the same unit. We was with the 155 Hauser unit, and when we got busted up, I got moved over to the Chief of Staff section.
Okay, so originally you were in an artillery unit.
I was artillery.
And but there was a concentration of men from one community, and they didn't like that in case something happened. They didn't want a lot of men from one community being injured or killed.
That's right.
Okay. So you ended up going to headquarters?
Headquarters.
Now, that's a little bit of a different experience. What all did you end up doing there? What did you tell me a while ago that you kind of did there?
I was a gopher. You go do this, you do that, and that's what I was doing, what I was told to do.
Whatever they told you to do, you
right.
did. Well, let me ask you this now. Okay, so after you get sent over to the headquarters group, how long was it after that before you found out you were going to Korea?
When we first got out there, they gave us our 782 gear and said we was going over then. But they found out that we needed a little bit more training, and it was about 6 weeks before we left for Japan to going into Korea.
Okay. So you shipped out of where in the United States?
San Francisco.
San Francisco, mm-hmm. And you went to Japan. And then from Japan into Korea.
Into Korea.
What year was it that you arrived in Korea? Do you remember?
1950.
1950. So you get to Korea. Do you remember where you landed and what those early days were like there in Korea?
We were supposed to land at Wonsan, but when we got to Wonsan, the harbor was mined so heavy that we couldn't go in. So we waited 3 days for the Navy to clear the mines out. And once we went in, it was supposed to be behind the enemy lines about 2.5 miles. But when we went in, 10 Corps was already up there, and it took 3 days to clear the mines out.
Wow. So when you landed in Korea, you went in behind the enemy lines.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so how many was this 1st Marine Division? Is that who you were with at that time?
1st Marine Division, yes.
Okay. So that's a pretty large number of fighting men and support personnel.
About 15,000.
Wow. Okay, so you finally do get on shore after they get the mines cleared so you can get your ships in and unload. Did y'all set up a permanent base at that point, or did you move inland, or do you remember much about that time? Because I'm sure it was a lot of stuff going on with that many men.
Well, we moved out pretty quick. I don't remember exactly how many days we was there.
But you moved out pretty quick, moved inland,
Inland.
and set up a base. Now, one of the things that I find extremely interesting, and it's a part of history, and you can go on the internet and read all about, is the Chosin Reservoir.
Right.
And that was a significant site for a huge battle that took place during the Korean War that I think the Chinese thought might be the turning point of the war. Well,
We had the North Koreans beat, I believe. But when we got up close to the Yalu River, we had 15,000 in our 1st Marine Division. China came in with 120,000.
Now, wait a minute. There was 15,000 1st Division Marine Corps soldiers, and all of a sudden there's 120,000 Chinese and North Koreans probably.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like real good odds.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so I think if I remember my history, the Chinese, didn't they surround the Marine Corps division there, you guys?
Oh, yes. We got surrounded up there at the Chosin Reservoir.
What was that experience like?
Well, it wasn't good at all.
Was there constant fighting going on at that point in time, or did they kind of just surround you and then wait for opportunities? Do you remember much about that?
It's hard to remember everything about it, what was going on. I didn't know that we were surrounded all the way until later on, and I found out about it.
Mm-hmm. Now, your general was General Smith?
General Chester Puller.
Oh, Chester Puller. Now, you talk about a well-known Marine.
Yes.
Chesty Puller was actually started his career as a private in the Army, and before he retired, he was a general in the Marine Corps, which is pretty incredible to go from a private to a general. But he also had such a fiery reputation for being a tough Marine leader.
Right. Well, you mentioned General Smith, too, General O.P. Smith.
O.P. Smith,
He was
that's right.
in charge of the 1st Marine Division. But Chester Puller said, we got them right where we want them. He said, they're all around us. We can shoot in any direction.
Well, I guess that's about as positive an attitude as you could have at that situation.
Right.
So how long did, if I'm not mistaken, that battle lasted for several weeks?
I don't remember the exact time.
And the Marine, though, it did eventually fight through the lines and were able to break out of that?
Yes. Back down in Hungnam, we got aboard the USS Bayfield and went all the way back to the bottom of South Korea.
Wow. Now, the battle there at Chosin, that was in the middle of winter.
Right.
Tell me what the weather was like. I understand it was bitter.
Some places it was 30 to 40 degrees below zero.
Below zero.
Right.
Good gracious. And most of the troops, I'm sure they had winter weather, but that's still got to be cold no matter what you got on.
That's correct.
Now, I think you had told me that a lot of the time you had a tent that you were in.
Right.
But even, with a tent, and it may have had some type of stove in it for heat, that kind of temperature is almost something I can't even imagine.
It was real cold. But you got right up next to the stoves, and there was burning some type of fuel in there that was making them red hot, but you didn't get away from them too far.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you actually had some issues with frostbite.
Right. All 4 extremities.
Oh, my goodness. That probably wasn't an unusual ailment for the Marines in the 1st Division during the Chosin battle.
Not at all.
Most of the guys probably had some type of issue like that. Okay, so you ended up, after the Marines were able to break out down to South Korea, how long were you actually in battle there in Korea? Do you remember how many years? Was it 2 years or just a year? Or
Mine was just a little over a year.
A little over a year. You were telling me earlier about the fact that you were working with the headquarters group, which was probably a decent responsibility, but it had to be interesting being around your generals.
Oh, yes.
What were they? I guess my question is, what were they like? I mean, they were, we see so many movies and shows that talk about generals being this or that, but what was it like to be around the guys who were making the decisions?
General O.P. Smith, I remember sitting there with the top sergeant when he was talking to someone in 10th Corps. He said, there's only one road up there and one road out, and I'm not going to be in a hurry. And 10th Corps was wanting him to go faster all the time. He didn't do it because of that. We had good leadership. Otherwise, a lot of us wouldn't be here today if we didn't.
I have read that General O.P. Smith was a very religious man, very strong Christian.
He was a real nice gentleman.
And, you know, you get that sometimes portrayed differently in media, but it's good that you had good leadership, or it could have cost a lot of men their lives. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back. We're talking with Mr. Jerry Rein, longtime part of the Brookhaven, Lincoln County community, a veteran of the Korean conflict, sharing his experiences, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're sitting here today talking with Mr. Jerry Rein, veteran of the Korean conflict, sharing his experiences of being over there and being a part of one of the most significant battles in the Korean conflict, the Chosin Reservoir. 120,000 Chinese and North Korean soldiers surrounding 15,000 United States Marine Corps and a few Army guys mixed in together, but ended up being a victory for the Americans who were able to break out of that situation. It's been good to have you in here, Jerry, and in talking about other things. I know that one of the things a lot of our veterans talk about is how close they get to guys, and it may have been guys that you started out with in Meridian, but you've gotten close. You got close to a lot of those people, and you've been able to maintain contact with them through the years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Tell me about some of the men that you remember from Korea that you still stay in touch with.
Arnold Taylor. We went to high school together, and we went to Korea together.
My goodness.
And so that was one of them. And Jimmy Walker, he's from Meridian, from right outside of Meridian, Carthage, Mississippi. And we stay in touch, and we talk every once or twice a month probably.
How neat. While you were in Korea, you were there close to a year, a little over a year, something like that, and you know, did you have much contact with the Korean people? What was their attitude about Americans being there? I guess the South Koreans were probably thrilled to have you there helping. What was it like?
We really didn't commingle that much.
Weren't allowed to.
Mm-mm. And so we, on our own, and where we was, they wasn't with us.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, the Marine Corps has an incredible reputation, as do all of our branches of the service. But the Marine Corps consider themselves the few, the proud, the Marine, and it is a. Did you have to go to Camp Lejeune? We're gonna go back in your career a little bit here. Did you have to go there for basic?
Yes, I was at Camp Lejeune for a while.
Okay, I understand that can be pretty tough.
But really, I was one of the few that never went to boot camp.
Oh, okay.
I was in a reserve unit.
Okay.
For the 155 houses, and then they separated us because it was 2 minutes from the same town.
Right.
And I in the headquarters company, headquarters battalion, chief of staff section, forward. I didn't know they had a rear and a forward, but I was in the forward.
All right, that is interesting. Now, were you married when you went over there?
No.
Okay. Did you have a girlfriend back home?
I sure did.
Were you guys able to send letters back and forth?
Yes, I did, a lot of times.
Lots of letters.
She waited for me to come home, too.
And that ended up being your bride.
Right.
How neat.
She was in the 10th grade, and I was in the 11th grade when we started going together.
Is that right? Incredible. I guess mail call, like it is with any serviceman, is always a big deal, hoping you'll get some kind of letter from home, be it family or girlfriend or friends or whatever.
Amen. You're always looking forward to those letters.
In Korea, was the mail service pretty good? I guess now, while you were at Chosin, there probably wasn't a lot of mail coming in, but was it something you got pretty regular?
It got pretty regular once we got back from the frozen Chosin.
Now, you were over there during some of the most difficult times of the Korean conflict, and after approximately a year or so, you were sent back to the States. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Now, when you got back to the States, did you stay in the reserves for a while, or did you get out after a while, or just kind of had enough battle, conflict?
They extended my list 1 year, but I did not re-enlist after that.
Okay. I can understand that. Now, just for folks to remember, a lot of folks may remember, Mr. Jerry, you came to Brookhaven in 1963, and you've been here ever since.
Right.
Decided you wanted to put your roots down here, your family, worked for Trustmark forever. Not forever.
It was the Brookhaven Bank and Trust Company.
That's right, when you came here.
When I came here. Oh, yeah. I was with the First National Bank in Meridian prior to coming to Brookhaven.
Well, we're sure glad you came to Brookhaven. What about any anecdotes or stories or anything you remember about your time of service? I know it had to be difficult. And being a youngster, you had some strengths. You didn't have a wife and children and things to worry about back home. But anything that you remember about your service, you were one of those that actually was up in the fight. What kind of effect has it had on your life? You think it changed the way you think about things?
Well, I don't know, but I remember one time that, thinking back, they gave me a Tommy gun, which I'd never been checked out on, and a 5-gallon can of gasoline. They said, if we get overrun, you burn up this van and get the hell out. And I wanted to say, where to?
So there were some things they didn't want to fall into the hands of the Chinese or North Koreans. And they gave you that responsibility of destroying that.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that you just have to do your job, whatever it's called on to do. Well, Mr. Jerry, we've had a great time visiting with you. There are so many veterans that we pass on the street that walk around our community, and we try to say thank you as much as often as we can, and the museum is part of that. The Military Memorial Museum has got a lot of your memorabilia. I love going over there. Matter of fact, I was looking at your section the other day, and it had you were a mighty good-looking young man there, about 19 or 20 years old with that uniform.
Was.
I walked into that one. But I mean, it's really interesting to go to the museum and see the memorabilia that you guys have over the years, and now you're sharing it with us. And it's neat to go to the museum, and that's part of what this is as we're getting ready to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the museum, hoping to have special events on Veterans Day in November of this year. And you're part of that, Mr. Jerry. I want you to know that on behalf of Brookhaven, Lincoln County, Mississippi, the United States, and all citizens, we're grateful for your service to our country at that point where it was really needed.
Thank you.
And again, it's an honor for me to spend this time with you visiting this morning.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.